Imagine you are sitting at the kitchen table with someone you love dearly. Perhaps your spouse of 40 years, or an aging parent who has always been the rock of your family. They are working on a crossword puzzle, or perhaps trying to tell you a story about their day. Suddenly they pause. They look down at the paper, or they look you dead in the eye, and a shadow of deep confusion crosses their face. They cannot seem to find a simple, everyday word, or perhaps they stumble slightly while trying to manage the monthly utility bills. Instantly, a cold spike of fear strikes your chest. You think to yourself, is this it? Is this the beginning of dementia? For decades, our society has been profoundly conditioned to believe a very specific medical narrative, that cognitive decline always begins with a failing memory. We are told to watch out for misplaced car keys, forgotten appointments, and repetitive questions. But what if I told you that by looking only at memory, we are looking in completely the wrong direction? What if the earliest, most devastating warning signs of a changing brain have absolutely nothing to do with forgetting where you put your wallet? Today, we are going to tear down the traditional myths surrounding cognitive health and expose the hidden, silent behavioral changes that manifest years, sometimes even a full decade, before a single memory lapse ever occurs. If you know what to look for, these hidden signals are staring you right in the face. My name is Dr. Mark, and as a specialist in neurological pathways and endocrinology, my entire clinical life is dedicated to understanding how the human brain communicates, ages, and handles complex processing. When we talk about conditions like Alzheimer's disease or frontotemporal dementia, we are talking about a slow, microscopic process where abnormal proteins gradually accumulate in specific regions of the brain, quietly dismantling neural connections one by one. The terrifying reality is that this cellular damage does not hit the memory centers of the brain first in every individual. Depending on where the disease begins its silent assault, the very first symptoms can appear as subtle shifts in personality, strange new social habits, or a sudden inability to navigate daily environments. Because these signs look like ordinary aging, stress, or a late-life, midlife crisis, family members completely miss them, dismissing them until the disease has already made significant, irreversible progress. We need to move away from the generic checklist and dive deep into the true behavioral architecture of early cognitive decline. We will explore the precise scientific reasons why a changing brain alters a person's financial judgment, why it flips their lifelong dietary preferences upside down, and how a subtle change in their sense of humor can be a loud distress signal from their neurology. To understand why memory is a deceptive marker, we have to look closely at the complex geography of the human brain. The brain is not a uniform mass. It is a highly segmented metropolis where different neighborhoods handle entirely different tasks. Memory is primarily managed by a deep, curved structure called the hippocampus, located within the temporal lobes. While Alzheimer's disease frequently starts its destruction in this area, many other forms of dementia begin their assault in the frontal lobes, the region right behind your forehead that governs your personality, your impulse control, your judgment, and your social filters. When the frontal lobe is compromised, a person's memory remains entirely pristine. They can remember a phone number from 40 years ago. They can recount an intricate historical event in perfect detail, and they can pass a basic word recall test with flying colors. Yet their ability to navigate the social world is quietly crumbling from within. This is why looking solely at memory creates a dangerous illusion of safety, leaving families completely blindsided when a formal diagnosis is finally made. The very first subtle sign that almost everyone misses involves a profound, progressive shift in a person's financial literacy and monetary judgment. Long before a person forgets the name of their grandchildren, they will often lose the complex cognitive ability to manage abstract numbers and recognize financial risk. Think about what is required to manage a checking account or spot a modern internet scam. Your brain has to perform rapid visual processing, exercise high-level executive function, hold pieces of data in its working memory, and accurately calculate future consequences. When early neurodegeneration begins to damage the prefrontal cortex, this high-level network is the very first to crash. You might notice that a parent who was always meticulously organized with their finances suddenly starts letting bills pile up on the counter. They might make uncharacteristic, massive purchases that make absolutely no logical sense. Or they might repeatedly fall prey to obvious predatory telephone solicitations that they would have easily laughed off just a year prior. They are not forgetting what money is. Rather, their brain has lost the complex neural machinery required to calculate value, assess safety, and predict financial danger. The second hidden warning sign is closely related and manifests as a distinct, baffling drop in a person's deep empathy and emotional warmth. Humans are inherently social creatures, and our ability to connect with others relies on a highly sophisticated neurological process called the theory of mind. This is the brain's capacity to look at another person's facial expression, listen to the tone of their voice, and automatically understand what they are feeling. It is what allows us to offer comfort when a friend is crying, or to hold back a hurtful comment during an argument. When neurodegenerative diseases target the right frontal lobe and the amygdala, this emotional radar is completely wiped out. Families will often notice that a lifelong, gentle, deeply caring individual suddenly becomes cold, detached, and remarkably indifferent to the feelings of those around them. If a spouse falls down the stairs or breaks a dish, the affected individual might simply stare blankly or walk away without offering a single ounce of assistance. They are not acting out of malice or spite. Their brain has physically lost the cellular receptors required to mirror and process human emotion. The third early sign that is frequently written off as simple eccentric aging is a sudden dramatic alteration in a person's relationship with food, specifically an intense, unyielding craving for sugar and carbohydrates. Our daily appetite and nutritional preferences are tightly regulated by a tiny, powerful command center located at the base of the brain called the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus constantly monitors our body's energy needs and balances hormones like ghrelin and leptin to tell us when we are full and what types of fuel we require. In certain forms of cognitive decline, particularly frontotemporal degeneration, the pathways connecting the frontal cortex to the hypothalamus become severely disrupted. This cellular breakdown causes a profound metabolic shift. A person who spent their entire life eating a balanced, savory diet might suddenly refuse to eat anything unless it is completely coated in sugar. They might compulsively consume entire packages of cookies, add multiple spoonfuls of white sugar to their meals, or develop a bizarre fixation on eating the exact same meal at the exact same hour every single day. The brain is entering a state of severe energy starvation as its ability to process glucose declines, and it is frantically demanding quick-burning simple sugars to keep its failing cells alive. The fourth silent indicator is a subtle but profound change in a person's visual spatial awareness and physical navigation, which often manifests long before they ever get lost driving home. Many people believe that our eyes do all the work when it comes to seeing the world around us. However, your eyes are merely lenses that collect raw light data. The actual task of creating a three-dimensional map of your environment is performed by the parietal lobes located at the back and sides of your skull. When early cognitive decline targets the parietal pathways, a person's ability to judge distances, perceive depth, and process motion becomes heavily impaired. You might notice that they suddenly start nicking the garage door frame with the side mirrors of their car, or they struggle immensely to park in a standard space. When walking down a flight of stairs, they might hesitate dramatically at the edge of a step, unable to accurately perceive where the floor begins and ends. They might reach for a coffee cup on the table and completely miss it, knocking it over instead. They can see the cup perfectly clear, but their damaged parietal lobe cannot accurately compute the spatial distance between their hand and the object. Finally, the fifth early sign that everyone misses is a striking, uncomfortable shift in a person's social inhibitions and their lifelong sense of humor. In a healthy brain, the orbital frontal cortex acts like a strict internal police officer. It monitors our thoughts, evaluates social rules, and prevents us from saying or doing things that are inappropriate, offensive, or embarrassing to others. It is what keeps us from making a loud comment about someone's appearance in a public grocery store. When this specific region faces neural degradation, that vital internal filter is completely removed. An individual might suddenly begin making highly inappropriate, sexually explicit, or incredibly rude comments to complete strangers. They might start shoplifting small items from store shelves without a single care in the world, or tell crude, dark jokes at a highly somber event like a funeral. Family members are often deeply mortified by this behavior, assuming the person is simply choosing to be difficult or vulgar. But the biological truth is that the physical breaks of their behavior have been completely severed. They are living entirely in the immediate moment, completely unable to process social boundaries or predict the consequences of their public actions. Look closely at the collective gravity of these 5 warning signs. None of them involve a loss of memory, yet each one is an absolute structural emergency, occurring deep within the delicate architecture of the human brain. When we limit our understanding of dementia to simple forgetfulness, we do a profound disservice to millions of families who are quietly watching their loved ones slip away without understanding why. We waste precious years when medical interventions, lifestyle adjustments, and therapeutic strategies are at their most effective. If you notice a sudden, uncharacteristic shift in a loved one's financial choices, a cold wave of emotional detachment, an obsessive fixation on sweets, frequent spatial clumsiness, or a complete loss of social filters, do not look away. Do not dismiss it as a natural part of growing old. It is a brilliant, tragic distress signal being flashed from the changing terrain of their neurology. By educating ourselves to look beyond memory, we can step into a space of true empathy, accurate diagnosis, and profound support, helping those we love navigate the storm with the absolute dignity and targeted medical care they truly deserve.